Hello and welcome to YNWA Transfer News, your ultimate source for all Liverpool FC transfer news. Our first news is this.
Slot pressed on Gomez's role again as he explains risky selection. Call. Liverpool's search for defensive solutions has taken yet another twist after a fresh explanation from Arne Slot about how Joe Gomez was handled against PSV. Our head coach expanded on the situation by saying, "He could have been involved yesterday as well in terms of minutes. But when we are 2-1 down or 3-1 down, I tend to make offensive substitutions." The 47-year-old then added that Ibu Konate had not trained 2 days before the game and that he was a bit of a liability 2 days before, admitting it would have been a risk to start both him and Gomez. Slot concluded, "I decided to keep him there for if Ibu was injured, and not to have to make 2 substitutions because then probably would have ended up with 1 or 2 defenders." Gomez's situation deepens as Liverpool weigh defensive options. This update only heightens a growing theme around the longest-serving player in our squad. Even before PSV, Slot had said that Gomez had an injection in his knee and was not able to train every single day last week, a line that came when discussing how Dominic Szoboszlai ended up filling in at right back. It also connects naturally with Paul Joyce's observation that Gomez has played only 43 minutes in the Premier League this term, and the pointed question asked soon after, if the manager does not trust him to bolster this defense at a time of injuries, then what is his role at the club? Those comments now feel even more relevant. With Conor Bradley and Jeremy Frimpong sidelined and Calvin Ramsey still not considered ready, it was telling that the London-born defender was once again viewed as cover rather than a solution. Why the Gomez dilemma matters before West Ham v Liverpool. The PSV defeat has only increased the scrutiny on every selection call. Konate's form, Virgil van Dijk's penalty concession, and the makeshift right-back plan all contributed to a performance that left us defeated. Gomez has played at right-back throughout his Liverpool career. Yet even in a moment of shortage, he remains an emergency option rather than a preferred starter. As we head to West Ham on Sunday, the question that lingers is whether the 28-year-old will finally be trusted, or whether this press conference has confirmed that he is further down the pecking order than ever. Jurgen Klopp returned to Liverpool stance as pressure mounts on Arne Slot. There is little chance of Jurgen Klopp returning to Liverpool as manager. Despite Arne Slot presiding over a dismal run of form at the moment, Liverpool has lost 9 of its last 12 games in all competitions, piling the pressure on the man who replaced Klopp in the Anfield dugout last year. Despite winning the league during his first season in charge, many fans are running out of patience with Slot for what they perceive to be his tactical stubbornness. The prospect of Slot losing his job, which must be taken seriously, considering the team's form, has prompted suggestions that the club could look to beg Klopp to come back. However, unsurprisingly, those suggestions are without substance, with TalkSport saying that Slot retains the faith of the Liverpool board for now. As for Klopp, he doesn't appear to harbor any ambition of returning to the dugout anytime soon, as he is now enjoying a better work-life balance. Klopp said in an appearance on the Diary of a CEO podcast last month that it was theoretically possible that he would one day return to Liverpool. But in another interview with The Athletic earlier in October, he said that he was enjoying his current role as Red Bull's global head of soccer. Asked whether he was waiting by the television for the games to begin at the beginning of last season, Klopp responded, "Not at all. I was super happy with the way Liverpool performed. I watched some games, but it is not like, oh, it's Saturday. I didn't know when games started. I was just out. I played sports. We enjoyed life, spent time with the grandkids, completely normal stuff, knowing I will work again, but knowing as well that I don't want to work as a coach anymore." Asked whether he believes he will never be a coach again, Klopp responded, "That's what I think, but you don't know. I'm 58. If I started again at 65, everybody will say, 'You said you'll never do it again.' Sorry, I thought 100% when I said it. That is what I think now. I don't miss anything about being a manager." Slot, meanwhile, said after the loss to PSV that he is not worried about the possibility of being fired despite the team's appalling recent run. "I am feeling safe. I am okay. I have got a lot of support from above," said Slot. "It would be nice to turn it around and get a victory, of course, but if you are not doing well, then it is normal that questions are asked. I am okay with my position. It is not the first time I've been in a difficult position, but it is about time that we turned it around. I'm not worried. What I mean by that is my focus is on other things than on my own position. I need to do better, and that's what I'm trying to do. Every single day, Liverpool dressing room split fears made clear. As Arne Slot faces brutal realization, Liverpool might be grappling with a fractured dressing room following the summer's recruitment drive. According to a damning assessment from former Premier League manager Tony Pulis, the alarming theory emerged during Pulis's appearance on the manager's podcast alongside fellow ex-top flight gaffer Mick McCarthy. As they dissected the Reds' current struggles, Arne Slot's men hit rock bottom on Wednesday night after suffering a humiliating 4-1 defeat to PSV Eindhoven at Anfield. The Merseysiders have now tasted defeat in 9 of their previous 12 outings, heaping enormous pressure on their Dutch manager. Liverpool splashed out as much as £450 million strengthening their squad this summer, with Hugo Ekitike, Jeremy Frimpong, Alexander Isak, Florian Wirtz, Milos Kerkez, and Giovanni Leoni all arriving at the club. Pulis, who managed Stoke City for 7 campaigns, suspects the Reds may be battling internal tensions just months after clinching the Premier League crown, with Slot potentially having to face the realization his overhaul has failed. I've watched them and there's something missing there, Pulis revealed to McCarthy. As being a manager, you know as well as I do, things can flip so quickly and people will look at lots of reasons. Have they brought the right people in? Are the players, who are there, happy with the players they've brought in? Is there some animosity between the players coming in with the players who actually won the league last year, so early and so convincingly? Nick, I've worked in it, you've worked in it. Of course people want to know what other players are earning and what they're getting and everything else, and that can destabilize the dressing room, especially with players who have been at that club for a long time and been very, very successful at that club. Pulis also suggested that wage inequality, sparked by reports that some of the Reds' latest arrivals are pocketing more than long-serving stars who have delivered whilst wearing the famous red jersey, might also be a contributing element. Players coming in, if they get the money and they earn it and they deserve it because they're making a difference, I think the waves are not so strong. Pulis added, but if they come in and they don't look as though they're helping people out and they don't look as though they're making a difference, those waves are going to start rolling over people. And I think that's happened. Mick Pulis' assertions might hold some validity, though there have been no verified accounts of any unrest within the Liverpool changing room. Liverpool's top wage earners are thought to be Virgil van Dijk, with the Dutch defender reportedly collecting £400,000 a week. Mohamed Salah follows closely behind on £380,000 a week after the duo penned fresh deals towards the conclusion of last season. Wirtz is reportedly earning £200,000 per week. Meanwhile, Isak is said to have signed a 6-year contract worth £300,000 a week, making both Isak and Wirtz the third and fourth highest earners in Liverpool's squad respectively. New striker Ekitike is also believed to be on £200,000 per week. This puts the young player above title-winning stars such as Andy Robertson and Alexis Mac Allister, who are thought to be earning around £160,000 and £150,000 respectively. According to Spotrick, Pulis suggested that Liverpool's dramatic dip in form could simply be due to a lack of effort. He stated, "Everybody is into stats today and talks about this, that and the other. Take away the football side of it. It would be really interesting to see what distance this Liverpool team are doing week in, week out, yardage and sprints. Take the ball away to see what this lot have done compared to last year's team, the team that won the league. That would be my starting point." The former West Brom manager concluded by saying Liverpool's balance is an issue, adding, "The second thing I would say is that the balance doesn't look right. From last year where they were so up and at them, everybody seemed in unison together as a team. They played forward together. They got back behind the ball. They were an excellent side last year. They won a lot of games late on. That shows the spirit and determination. I'm convinced the balance isn't right." Liverpool's next challenge is a Premier League face-off against West Ham at the London Stadium this Sunday, with Slot under intense pressure to secure a win. Emergency Liverpool meeting ends with Arne Slot given final warning and 2-match deadline. Liverpool manager Arne Slot has reportedly now had his emergency meeting with club bosses and been given a final warning over his job. It seems the Reds want to see an immediate improvement from Slot, according to the information in the X post below, with the demand now being to deliver 6 points from the club's next 2 Premier League games. As reported earlier today, there have already been some apparent issues between Slot and Liverpool director Richard Hughes after the latter overruled the former over the sale of Luis Diaz to Bayern Munich this summer. Now it looks like Slot has been given the urgent message to turn things around quickly, or the club are prepared to make a change. Would Liverpool be right to sack Arne Slot? A few months ago it would have seemed unthinkable that Liverpool could be in this position, with Slot working wonders to win the Premier League title in his first season in charge. The Dutch tactician was then given some hugely promising signings to work with, as the likes of Alexander Isak, Florian Wirtz, Hugo Ekitike and Jeremy Frimpong joined in the summer. Things just haven't worked out for these new additions, however, with Liverpool now perhaps justified in questioning if Slot is still the right man to take this team forward. Liverpool are now on an awful run of 9 defeats from their last 12 games, and it will be interesting to see if Slot can survive. The next 2 games clearly look like they'll be crucial, with West Ham away and Sunderland at home up next for Liverpool in the league. Liverpool fans make feelings clear on sacking Arne Slot after latest loss. Liverpool supporters have called for the club to sack Arne Slot after yet another shambolic defeat. The Reds were thrashed 4-1 at Anfield by PSV Eindhoven on Wednesday night in the Champions League to pile more pressure on Slot, who now appears to have lost the majority of fans. Liverpool's porous defense was on show again, as PSV ran riot in the second half to become the third straight opponents to win by 3 goals, after Nottingham Forest and Manchester City did the same thing. There were several worrying signs at Anfield as Slot appeared powerless to stop his side slumping to a 9th defeat in their last 12 games. Slot received backing from Steven Gerrard, who said the current situation stopped short of being a crisis, and Jamie Carragher, who pointed the finger at the players. And Mirror Football understands that the Dutchman's job is safe for the time being, with plenty of credit in the bank following his stunning debut campaign in which he claimed the Premier League title. But, as Gerrard pointed out by saying Anfield tells a story, the seats are empty, the dissenting voices are growing louder, and that sentiment was clear when Mirror Football used our dedicated Liverpool WhatsApp channel to ask whether the club should sack Slot. We received 912 responses and there was an overwhelming verdict, with 68% saying yes, as opposed to 290 to 32%. Who would give him more time? I feel I am okay with my position, Slot said after the humiliating PSV defeat. I've been feeling safe. I've got a lot of support from above. They are helpful to me, but they don't phone me every single minute of the day to tell me they trust me. I feel the trust, but I haven't spoken to them after this game, Carragher pointed out on CBS Sports. They are different from almost every top club in European football where the manager is the king. The managers get time. Liverpool have never sacked a manager who has won the league. I couldn't believe after the weekend defeat to Forest people were talking about the manager's job, but it's only going to amplify now. I've always been in the camp of you stick by the manager. I'm angry with the players. Slot will be in charge for the trip to face West Ham in the Premier League on Sunday. He is in desperate need of a morale-boosting win, with Liverpool sitting 12th in the league after losing -1 of their last 7 games in the competition. Arne Slot already has template he needs, with best hope of Liverpool fix clear. Throughout the final months of Arne Slot's debut campaign at Liverpool, he mentioned PSG several times. He clearly admired the way that Luis Enrique's team played and, of course, it knocked the Reds out of Europe in March much more emphatically than the scoreline showed, with its explosive attackers, technical midfield and flying fullbacks. The comparisons to Liverpool, especially after the likes of Alexander Isak, Florian Wirtz, Milos Kerkez and Jeremy Frimpong arrived during the summer, are obvious. Slot isn't simply trying to copy the team that went on to win the Champions League, but there are definite parallels. In the Premier League, where, led by Arsenal, pretty much everyone has gone for a more physical, set-piece heavy approach, Liverpool has gone against the grain in youth's top competition. As a result, it should be no surprise that it is seeing more success. While Liverpool has lost 6 games in the Premier League already this season, it sits in a good position in Europe. It has already beaten Atletico Madrid, Eintracht Frankfurt and Real Madrid. Without question, the most convincing performances of the season have tended to come outside of the Premier League, the robust win over Arsenal aside perhaps, and it is there where Liverpool has looked most comfortable. There too lies a comparison to PSG. Last year, it struggled until Christmas but then clicked into gear in the months that mattered most, helped in part by the January arrival of Kvaratskhelia domestically. Liverpool doesn't have such an easy task as the League One champion when it comes to getting back into title contention, and it is extremely unlikely to close the gap to Arsenal even if it goes on a lengthy winning run. But it will be hoping to replicate PSG's continental success. It is, after all, much better equipped to win games against teams that try to play it at its own game. With the long throws and relentless dead balls of the Premier League yet to translate to the European ties, right now, any team that goes for power over technique against Liverpool has the capacity to knock the Reds out of their stride. On its day, though, Slot's men can turn up and put on a show, as they proved against Real Madrid. It was in that game that Wirtz looked best. There was more space for Hugo Ekitike to run and press, and the likes of Ibrahima Konate looked much more focused on the big occasion. Isak was injured at that point but would be likelier to excel there than in a rough-and-tumble scrap for possession. With 9 points from 4 games and PSV coming to Anfield this week, Liverpool is already well placed in the 36-team group phase, and can further strengthen that position by chalking up another win. And as PSG proved last season, it is only really in the knockout phase that it really starts to matter in the Champions League, at which point anyone can get a bit of luck with some favorable draws, unless its Premier League troubles migrate into Europe. Liverpool won't be finishing 15th in the Swiss system, as the eventual winner of last year's tournament did, with a bit of good fortune and a similar progression throughout the coming months as PSG showed is possible last year. It looks considerably better suited to going far in Europe than in the Premier League.
Thank you for watching. Like and comment, subscribe.